Sergio Perez is on the verge of losing his F1 seat, and it could happen sooner than you think. That's the bold statement that kicks off this video because let's be real, Checo's position at Red Bull is starting to look pretty shaky. Now, I know what you're thinking. Didn't Perez just sign a new 2-year contract with the team? How can he be at risk of losing his seat mid-season? Well, my friends, that's exactly what we're going to dive into. Let's start with the obvious. Perez's performance on the track has been, well, let's just say it's not living up to Red Bull's expectations. Over the last 6 races, the team has actually been outscored by the likes of McLaren and Mercedes. That's not a good look when you're supposed to be challenging for the championship. If you really break down the numbers, Perez is currently scoring points at the same rate as drivers like Nico Hülkenberg and Lance Stroll. Ouch. That's not exactly the kind of company you want to be keeping when you're driving for one of the top teams in F1. And the gap to his teammate Max Verstappen is starting to look pretty significant. There's even talk to a contract clause that would allow Red Bull to void Perez's deal if he falls 100 points behind the Dutchman. Yikes. Now, you have to understand the pressure that Red Bull is under. They desperately need Perez to perform and support Verstappen in the championship fight. With Max often left fighting alone at the front, the team can't afford to have an underperforming second driver. Imagine if Verstappen had a mechanical issue or got taken out in an incident. Perez would need to be there to pick up the pieces and maximize the team's points haul. But right now, that's just not happening. Red Bull has built this team around Verstappen, and they're not going to let anyone or anything jeopardize his chances of winning another title. If Perez can step up and do his part, you can bet they'll start looking for someone who can. So, who could potentially replace Perez if Red Bull decides to pull the trigger? Well, the team is already evaluating one of their young guns, Liam Lawson. The Kiwi is set to have a promotional test at Silverstone, and the team is eager to see how he performs in the RB19. Lawson has been tearing it up for Formula 2 and is seen as a potential future star for Red Bull. If he can impress in the test, he might just find himself in the second Red Bull seat sooner than anyone expected. But Lawson isn't the only name being thrown around. There's also the possibility of a familiar face returning to the team, Daniel Ricciardo. Yes, the same Daniel Ricciardo who used to drive for Red Bull and win races for them. Now, I know what you're thinking. Ricciardo has struggled in recent years, so why would Red Bull go back to him? Well, the team might be willing to take a gamble on his experience and race-winning pedigree. After all, they know what he's capable of when he's at the top of his game. Despite the recent extension of his contract, Perez finds himself in a pretty vulnerable position. The team hasn't exactly been quick to dismiss the rumors of a potential mid-season replacement, and that's got to be weighing heavily on his mind. Imagine how stressful that must be, knowing that your future is hanging by a thread and that the team is actively evaluating other options. It's going to be tough to go out and perform at your best when you're constantly looking over your shoulder. And let's not forget, Perez's contract extension wasn't exactly a ringing endorsement of his abilities. There's probably a reason why it's only a 2-year deal, and I'm willing to bet that there are some pretty strict performance clauses in there. So as we head into the summer break, Perez knows that he's got to turn things around quickly if he wants to keep his seat. The team's management is watching his every move, and they're not afraid to make tough decisions if it means securing the championship. Imagine being Sergio Perez right now. You've just signed a new contract, but instead of feeling secure in your position, you're constantly looking over your shoulder, wondering if the team is going to pull the trigger and replace you. The pressure must be immense. Not only do you have to worry about your own performance, but you also have to deal with the constant speculation and rumors about your future. It's got to be a real mental grind. And let's be honest, the team's desperation for a strong second driver is only going to add to that pressure. Perez knows that he's not just fighting for his own future, but for the team's championship aspirations as well. That's a lot of weight to carry on your shoulders. So, what does the future hold for Sergio Perez? Will he be able to turn things around and solidify his position at Red Bull, or will the team decide to pull the trigger and bring in a new driver mid-season? It's a tough call, and it's going to come down to Perez's performance in the coming races. If he can start scoring consistent points and closing the gap to Verstappen, he might be able to save his seat. Sergio Perez's future at Red Bull hangs in the balance as the team's patience wears thin with his recent struggles. While Perez's sponsorship deals provide valuable income, it is ultimately ultimately his on-track performance that will determine his fate. If Perez continues to underperform and fails to adequately support Max Verstappen's title charge, Red Bull may be forced to consider other options. The team has shown in the past that they are willing to make tough decisions when it comes to their driver lineup, and Perez could find himself on the chopping block if he cannot turn things around. Red Bull has a history of being ruthless when it comes to their drivers, and they are not afraid to take a gamble on young talent. Drivers like Liam Lawson, who has been impressive in the junior categories, could be brought in to replace Perez if the team feels he is no longer up to the task. Alternatively, Red Bull may look to bring back a familiar face in the form of Daniel Ricciardo. The Australian driver has a strong relationship with the team and has proven his ability to win races in the past. A return to Red Bull could be the perfect opportunity for Ricciardo to revive his career and help the team in their quest for another championship. Ultimately, it will come down to results for Perez. Red Bull is a team that is laser focused on winning, and they will not hesitate to make changes if they feel it will give them the best chances of success. Perez's future hangs in the balance, and the next few races could be the make or break moment for the Mexican driver's F1 career.